Thank you for coming, and I'm going to read some poems. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So I'm going to read from My People Redux, which is my 4th collection of poetry. And on the front is a cover from High Stand Park, also known as Radar Park in Madison on Milwaukee Street. And this is where I edit a lot of my poems. And also on this book is also High Stand Park. I do a lot of meditation and writing, and for me, walking and going to a park is just like one of the best things. So it is intentional that there's 2 different pictures here from that same park. So I'm going to start with the opening quote from C.D. Wright, who is a poet I feel very similar to me, who has like 1 foot in rural area and 1 foot in the city. And she says, glasses. All right. She says, I am looking for a way to vocalize, perform, act out, address the commonly felt crises of my time. These are spiritual exercises. And that's C.D. Wright from Cooling Time, who was an Arkansas poet who felt just as home in the country as she did in the city. This is called They Could Be Sisters. And we don't have children, but I do write a lot of poems for the children in Madison, and this is one of them. They could be sisters. 3 girls with straight waist-length black hair go round and round the circle. They cycle, talk, sing, locks whip in their wake, sunlight highlights red handlebar streamers. Spinning on 2 wheels, they split, jump curbs, catch air. To fly or flee or speed, perched high and free on a purple banana seat. This is where my power started flowing, on a bike, in the driver's seat. The 3 roll on grass when a voice echoes, shouting distance rules, close the drapes. When I read this, I always ask people, do you know what shouting distance rules mean? And I'm from Iowa, and we got to play outside. So if your mother could yell at you and you could hear her, that was called shouting distance rules. So that's just a little explanation of that. So we grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. My sister went to Dubuque for Loras College. So I have a lot of connections to Illinois. I have family in Chicago, and now we live in Madison. So this is called Kick the Can. And in this, I'm exploring my childhood. Kick the can. Trains rattle across 4 Mile Creek, carry livestock to feed the hungry machine. Swimming in flooded cornfields, we crawl through DDT. Mulberries, purple stain, ooze through bare toes, starburst heels. Mosquitoes buzz in our ears, feed on limbs, bite under shorts. Ticks land on our heads, cause night body inspections. Corn arms scratch our leg as we run through farmers' young rows, play, find their scarecrow, the hobo. We cut off kids' play, kick the can under earth shine, cry out in the soft blue dark. Sweet clover, dandelions, oak trunks know our names as we dangle from stripped limbs, dive off at 6 feet. I am 9, the ringleader, the I know girl. We tell ghost stories, hunt for clues, peer into pains. Little ones stand on shoulders to see, report back. We trample earth past, search for caves, sunken farmhouses, old graves. Sometimes semis tip over and hooves clatter up our dead-end street. Earth crashing roar, nostril, thunder, snort, steam. Cows and horses destined for meatpacking plants plot for freedom, pass under our window frames. Their last chance hangs. Mothers run out of their kitchens, scoop stunned toddlers from the middle of the stampede, remark how often this happens. Animals breaking semi-steel doors. Weingartner Road, where underground railroads ran and good Iowans hid refugees in root cellars. In between fake walls, civil wars. until the next train crossed the land. The creek, Lois fields, straight line from China, spine of tundra. Trains still rattle, carry oil, soybeans, and children stub their toes, bloody all summer play, kick the can, barefoot on concrete, moisture riding their back, sweat beads the second they leave the shower. Reporters crack eggs on sidewalk, the white steam. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is all in couplets, and white space is really important to me. So if you want to look at these later, take a look, because I really pay attention to where I cut the line, where the period is, where the white spaces are. And so it's just really important to me. I think of poetry as a visual art form, and how it looks on the page is really important to me. So I marry form and content, and I really think about how the poem looks. So this collection and that collection, they hung on my wall with blue painter tape, and I keep one wall blank so that I can see the inner construction of it and go back and forth. So my husband could say, yes, she spends a lot of time in her room, sitting, looking at the wall, but it's really important to me. And so poetry is a visual art form, and music and sound. So maybe you can hear it, but I did want to point that out. And my teachers would say, you have to be able to defend what you're doing on the page. And I went back at very late in my career at 48 to get an MFA, a Master of Fine Arts in Poetry, even though I'd been published and had some success, because I wanted to define what I was doing on the page. And being a good immigrant and child of immigrants, you know, I've made my life in finance and administration, but it's poetry that is my first love. And so I was really fortunate. I started writing at the age of 7, and to be now the Madison Poet Laureate and to be the chair for the Wisconsin Poet Laureate Commission, sometimes I pinch myself. I'm like, wow, you did achieve some things, right? And it feels good. So it's just a little thing, but I'm really happy you're here. This is called After the First Snow. And this again is the children in the neighborhood. After the first snow, bushes shake white gifts, black flecks, earthquakes, pine, oak, maple trees dance with limbs bow. Burning bush trembles with each footstep, droplets thunder. Icicles on my birthday sparkle, clear candles, icy breath of pine cones, each branch breathes out clean. Dust off flakes give thanks to the trunks who let me linger in their froth. A child again beneath this skin package. Winter's tongue landscapes the morning, silver palette, sleds come out of storing, children shriek, flock to the hill, carve runs all afternoon, sweaty kid brows shine. That's after the first snow. And I want to say, we lived so close to this park, Radar Hill, High Stand Park, and when I'm shoveling, I can hear the kids on the hills sledding and shrieking and laughing. We can hear them play soccer. It's really lovely. So I'm going to read Goose Eggs. So I was very fortunate to have 3 grandmothers when I was growing up, and this is one of them. And my family is not just Mexican American. We are many different ethnicities and groups. And the truth is, I have a lot of white family members from rural areas, and you'll probably hear the echoes in the work. But this is goose eggs because for Easter, my rural white grandma would give us this huge goose egg, boiled goose egg. And we would eat this goose egg for a long time because it's so big, but this is for her. Goose eggs. 15 siblings orphaned. Eldest, she absorbed the kids' kitchen laundry, baked bread, made stone fruit pies, lemon meringue, banana cream until she died. Thighs a side saddle on her tricycle, pedaling to the diner, she delivered artful peeks. Holidays, she doled out hot bread in the corner, hand sliced, country buttered. And Easter of hard-boiled goose eggs, we gnawed on them for weeks, two-handed. Christmas, over 50 of us in one room, everyone got $5, a card signed, love, Grandma Alice, but we were not blood. That is goose eggs for Grandma Alice. So my family is from Iowa. In the 1880, late 80s, they came and they came up with the Rock Island Railroad. So this area is very important to me. And when they settled in Newton, Iowa, they would often take the train car and move it to the other side of the tracks and build their homes around it. So in my work, I explore their history. And being the child of second and third generation immigrants, I've had to explain how does this even happen. But in some of these poems, I go sit on the gravestones in Newton, Iowa, and remember the stories that my mother would tell about the people underneath the grass. And this is one of them. It's in 4 parts. My people redux. 1, crossed rivers and high desert before water jugs littered parched lands. Rode motorbikes, carried comals, seeds, black and white photographs. Fought poor villagers on their homelands, went from high school to the front lines. Lessons on patriotism led to flag burning, joint slit, alcoholic stupors, streaking, a roll of the dice, heads I live, tails I leave. My people forgot they rose from the earth. 2, our great grandpa knew. He planted corn rows, praying while he weeded and walked between his crooked lines, singing to the clouds to come, lay their rain music down, drum a new rhythm, tap the green stalks to grow. He wove a footpath from the back door to the smallest plant, whispering its name, and fed his family with what he wrought from earth and aqua sky, what he coaxed between loam and hard copper hands. 3, his kind fingers twist off pears, peppers, slender green beans, husks of sweet corn, crab apples and peaches, what the white-tailed deer did not nibble. Bees buzz in their hive, lured by the burnt man who croons at dawn, by his wife who brings him pan dulce and black cream in the morning in her pink house dress and potato sack apron. Leather patched by sun and scarecrow clothes, muscles cling to his bones, never young. Family, a heavy wool blanket covers his sins in the heat. Blessed with grandchildren, they run in his rows, bring him home books he cannot read, pages telling a history he corrects after cartoons each day. 4, great-grandchildren search for his buried grave, armed with spades and hoes, so they know where they came from and can find their way back to the original place of green grace, mountain breath, stews cooked with seeds, woven into a young girl's black braid, sewn in the hem of her deer dress. That is My People Redux. So as the Madison Poet Laureate, sometimes I get to go read to the Common Council and the mayor, and it's an opportunity for me to set the tone for the city council meeting or to inject something I think they should care about. And I don't take that lightly. And so I usually read. I've named a youth poet laureate, and now I invite her to read, which gives me 2 more opportunities to bring poets to the mayor and the Common Council. And it's kind of a big deal. So I'm going to read a poem that made them all cry later, but this is called Everybody is Somebody's Child. For the woman who swims on her back, baby floating on her breast, eyelashes facing the stars. For the girl who walked 3 miles for fresh water, gourd atop of her head, bare feet on earth. For the mother who shields her child with board games and hot chocolate from falling cluster bombs, whose fingers read coins and saute red peppers, onions, gifts bought at the open air market, who quarters tomatoes from the stand along the road, roasts sweet corn from the back of a pickup truck on a lost country highway from a woman folded in half. The widow who hiked for days, holding on with both hands, 2 smaller than her own. Another one strapped on her back with a bottle, stopped at a border due to the wrong stamp, and offices closed for the holiday. The strangers who found her crying on the side road, a couple who crossed the Rio Grande with her later when the moon shone, though they had papers. Toddler perched on the man's shoulders, fingertips dangling bags for precious lives, snacks, water for the journey. The grandmother who watches her grandchildren while their parents work outside the home, teaches them to read, building blocks, walks them to the park, to see the squirrels and ducks on the pond scatter at their joyful cries, short legs scrambling down the bank. The woman who rides the waves and prays the rickety boat will reach Lesbos shores, and on the other side waits warm bread, lentil soup, tea with honey, coffee, a bed to sleep, people who will open their doors and let them in, let them in. As everybody is somebody's child. I'm going to tell you a little story about this poem, May's Maiden. So I went to the Institute of American Indian Arts. My specialty is Indigenous poetics, and I study Indigenous history of this country. And May's Maiden was a poem based on my mentor, Sherwin Bitsui, who spoke in Navajo to us, and we were to interpret it into a poem. And two of us understood that somehow it was tied to corn. Who knows? But he told me that this poem should be after Rexley Jim. And being my mentor, I did that, though I did not know who the poet was. I do now. So this is called May's Maiden after Rexley Jim. Wait, chica, listen. Press knees, lips, ears to earth floor. Corn in the beginning, corn in the end. Green arms dance in rows. Ancestor whispers shed pollen in wind. Years of plenty, stories fill bowls. Children grow long. Tomorrow's seeds rest indoors. All right, May's Maiden. So we used to go to Isla Mujeres quite a bit. And I don't speak Spanish very well. And it is always a difficult thing for me. And my husband speaks much better than I do. And it's always caused a little bit of consternation when people look at us because it doesn't look like me. But this is a poem that I wrote about Isla Mujeres, which is called The Isle of Women. And this is what I found. What I found. Sun-worshipping lizards lounging on volcanic rocks, stone walls, rebar patches, snatches of fishermen nets, bottle caps, pirate's nest. Iguanas zip on marble floors, hide in cool stucco houses, stroll in manicured gardens with split tongues, stop traffic. A loose way of walking, the island roll of the hips, lips to sing Black Magic Woman in Spanish, Latin roots tuning the bars of my crib. Mango juice for breakfast, pork tamales, marigold yolks, cream-filled pan dulces that spill when you bite, motorbikes balancing for heartbeats, pocket dogs, grandmas and girls, turquoise casas that mirror the Caribbean, somersault towards the sea, washing dishes in yellow porcelain sinks under the back stairs, rolling under stars, sea breeze dried saucers, wind whipped towels, fishermen who float at dawn, the sky tangerine, no wooden boat, just bodies on water. That is what I found. So this is after Lorca, but I want to know everyone I am still alive. I blow about the trees, inhale dandelion heads, visit when you would rather pick up a rope than a pen. I come to you when you droop on stone steps, swim in your water, your food, your soil. My body floats in rain clouds. You breathe me through your nostrils. I am apples, flower scent, arugula's bitter taste, a multi-sip of beer, the pungent God-giving aroma of morning coffee dripping. I swing on monkey bars, climb trees, sit on your shoulder, stroke hair behind your ears, and when you write late, kiss the air around your face. That's what I want everyone to know, I'm still alive. So in this book, I do get a little bit more intimate with some of my own experiences. And in my family, our dead come back and they talk to us in our dreams. And there's a few things that I can't explain that have happened to me while hiking or camping. And this is another one. It's called Once in Seattle. Car wheels, bikes, delivery trucks halt mid-cycle. Traffic lights cease to blink. while forward motion splits itself apart and reassembles. The troll winks from under the Aurora Bridge, gets up from his hiding spot, puts the VW bug down, and stomps off into Lake Union, shoulders descending, ears, ship sails on the horizon. Earth holds its breath on its axis during the reboot, then exhales. I stop holding my breast, ask my friend, did you feel that? She nods. We cross when the light turns green, order red curry. Pine trees shake off their cones, magnolia blossoms quiver, white seagulls' flight patterns continue. The scavengers dive, bomb lunch revelers avocado sandwiches in Tech Plaza. I still don't know what that's about. So I'm an old dancer, and this is a poem called The Congregation. And every year we get together, there's a group of women from all ages, and we dance. And sometimes we dance on the water, and sometimes we dance on Lake Michigan. And this time we danced in a church. The Congregation, stained glass walls, hardwood floors, parking lot chickens watch from behind wire, shuffle back and forth as if we were the zoo animals and not them penned in a cage. Old church, now fitness center, facials, acupuncture, Zumba dancers, psychedelic tea with mushrooms carry worshipers away. Blonde heads swivel at the dark ones as they pass. People passing peer in and see women dancing to music no one can hear. Leaping, spinning, shaking hips, grinding, worshiping. In the hall, a person ruffles through coat pockets looking for a phone. Wings become daggers, eyes glow. No one knows. No one takes its pleasure from being naughty, peeking. People used to worship here, and pastor goats cavort, watch comings and goings. What happened to the steeple, the organ, the people? Now this old church carved back to empty. Shadows join the dancers. There should be 20, but there are close to 50, and all the parishioners have joined in the dance, and the dancers do not see their numbers have grown. Ghosts do not grow short of breath or sweat. They go under upraised legs, crawl under knees, sniff the necks of the women so alive, lick raised armpits, remember how it is to be in bone, skin, skeleton, to sweat, to bleed, to spin bare feet on floor and peel off the calluses from the day before. This is living. Old witches now kin. The music stops, the dancers collapse in their skin, revelers hold hands, fragments of old cling to real life. Hardwood floors shine wet, stained glass walls shake, shimmer, light-based dancers, chests heaving. That is The Congregation. That was in Lake Mills. So I'm going to switch a little. I'm going to read a poem for my niece Raven, and then I'm going to move to some other work. So this is for my niece Raven. The thing is, if you're loved by a poet, you're going to end up in a poem, and that's just the way it goes. Raven, my niece forged in the belly of her mother, island corn child, doughy flesh, white, unlike me, seed of Chinese merchant sailor, Taino natives hiding in interior trees, of pancake hands and tortilla minds, of plantain shaped in balls, fried pork inside, curls the size of grapefruits, eyes of jade. Crawling on her knees, shoves her German shepherd away as if he was a fly, not 150 pounds of flesh for desire. She began walking one day, tottering between piano legs, sofa couches. Her fresh skin springs back, unlike the hard churros sold next door. She laughs at her brother, plays with his cast aside awards, look less like my sister, more like her father's tribe, carries thumbprints of a people, down nostril, black hair, green eyes. She will learn how Puerto Rico keeps getting stolen, how Mexico has risen, fallen, about blood in all soil. Living in the barrio, she shuffles between high rises, skyscrapers, buses and doormen, ballets, paletas, the Michigan Mile, mango sellers, condo dwellers. To live on this land with one heart is to breathe every day divided. That's Raven. This next one is called Farther Out the Line. And I take the train from the kind of like, not even the suburbs of Chicago, but the very outskirts. So where you can get the first train from Madison. And this is what I see sometimes. Farther out the line, backpack, billows, hair bows, fire trucks, picture books, colored words, paper, pens, and pencil. I crawl in headphones, block teenagers' clash of beer cans, baby cries, shattering glass. Old men snores and chain brakes that shudder at intersections. Train towns, surround tracks, brew pubs, opera houses, cappuccino, red and white pizza bars, dive bars, psychics offer escape, spaces for working stiffs to flash cash, buy cheese curds, pickled eggs, roll, clatter, steel on wheel by a horse farm, cows, to be still while moving. I look for coyotes always, spy hawks hunting instead. Little gray birds chase crows from their nest, feathers circle overhead, ride airstreams. Wiser birds know their names. I envy the span of their wings, earthbound and rooted. The farther out the line, the darker the children. Scooters and bikes race the locomotive, grin when they lose. I smile back. Some suburbs have all white farmers markets, dogs with orange and blue tutus, high school bands in polyester, flags that wave at a distance. No one salutes. All right, I'm going to close with the last poem in this book and then move to others. This is called On Loyalty, and there's a lot of white space in here. So this is one of the poems where I really focus on how it appears on the page, and the white space for me allows meaning. So when you write a poem or you particularly work on a painting or any piece of art, you give it to the people, and then other people have their interpretations. But this is why I write. On loyalty, I write poems to save myself from drowning, falling into the abyss of busyness, to heal the world and me, to learn what I am thinking, so the pen can tap into my brain, reveal what is hiding, not to court friends or foes, but to keep from disappearing. So that closes my People Redux. And I'm going to switch gears and read from In Light, Always Light. And these two books is my master's thesis. So I have edited these poems 30 to 50 times. They lived on my walls. They were expanded and contracted. And I think it's probably some of the best work I've done to date. So I'm going to read another poem for the kids of Madison called Wheel Kids. And this is the one I'm trying to get the city to put into a sidewalk for me, because, you know, this is my last year as the poet laureate for Madison, and I want a sidewalk poem. And I started the Youth Poet Laureateship. So I really want this to be part of my legacy. And with the Youth Poet Laureate, I do the Youth Poet Laureate cohort. So every month we get together and we talk poetry. And it's really fun. Wheel Kids. Chocolate children race down the cul-de-sac, tight curls bounce, jeans, t-shirts rise with air, clenched fist, tape bars, tennis shoe breaks, no brakes, a shout. They cruise out of sight of the window. Bikes, scooters shake, quake, skinny kid, arms, legs, torsos, skin flattens. Neighbors, straight arrows, shooting stars, flesh flies, bodies grow wings. That is Wheel Kids. Now I talked about sitting on the gravestones in Newton, Iowa, where my parents went to high school, to let the stories come back. And we would go on the weekend and we'd clean up the graves, and my mother would tell stories about all these folks that are in the cemetery. So this poem, while my husband was watching basketball finals, I kept cutting up and down the stanzas and moving them around. And if you're a poet, it's really helpful to use painter tape and to take out stanzas and figure out how does it work. I couldn't figure the order, but I did get the order, and this is how it ended up. Arboretum, frames, Mexican bones, bodies who built railroads with broken backs, raw hands. An 1880 census conceals us, carving holes in still cars for light night air, hanging hammocks for sleeping wives to rock under galaxies. One woman rides the continent, follows her man from Zacatecas, thighs astride her clacking motorbike, belly swings on a swing, sways on the rails until where they lived in boxcars until kids were grown, where postpartum was unknown and unbalanced women got sent back, where my grandma, her cousins hid on the school hill to eat quesadillas. Neighbors claim the old man rode with Pancho Villa when men in suits leap off skyscrapers in New York, where my mom and Tia pretend not to speak English, teasing shopkeepers on the square, where my dad ran cross country to escape those fences farm until he broke, a mahogany streak on burnt clay tracks, where my uncle strove through bullets in Vietnam, dragging his buddy to the helicopter, and grandmothers trade apples for pears, fingertips and ashy wrist, dig out change at the market, dole out tortillas during meals, one hand on the open flame, one hand flutters, holds the blue house dress, where peony roots divide on their own, sparking an arboretum of sweet pink light, whose perfume carries itself uptown to the courthouse in drafts with garlic and chile, where my sister came, the day my grandfather was buried, water gushing graveside, and summers meant vaulting between family houses, rhubarb sticks dipped in bone white sugar, rope swing thigh burns, treasure hunts in the gully, where I visit now, water their parched Easter lilies as they lie beneath the grass, thank them for surviving Midwest winters, wars, and lynchings, for firewood split, mole recipes on parchment, for raising people who loved so much it hurts to swallow, for lessons on how small Carmel women united overcome great sorrow, for sharing their one red lipstick and rose hand lotion when I was a girl flowering. That is Arboretum, one of my more favorite poems. How am I doing on time? Okay, good, good. So I'm gonna read a poem. It's a little more personal, but if you're interested, I'll show you how it's constructed. It's about loss, but I really love a good em dash. I don't know if you know what an em dash is, but it's like a longer hyphen. And to me, it evokes loss and it allows meaning to flower. So I often use it when I'm showing the lessening of something. And in this, there's a very special passage where there's just a little bit of magic that happens. We are from Seattle before we went to Milwaukee, and we did a lot of backpacking. So if you're interested in backpacking, you can go to Rock Island, which is off of Door County and past Washington Island. And it's one of the best places to go backpacking. And we would like go there for like a week and live off the land and swim in the lake and bathe in the lake and make our coffee from the lake. It's a very special place. And we're gonna go back there in July. But when you talk about like living off the grid, we haul our stuff in and we haul it all back. And it's really lovely to make like 3 meals a day on an open flame. So this is called Sea Burial. Backpacks, a week of groceries, no hospital for 200 miles, no wheels, I survived. On the island where once in a clearing we came upon an animal meeting, hooves and feathers flee, mass exodus. There lies part of me, my man, wedged beneath blinding white rocks, body whispers blood and rot, until sediment slides down the 15-foot cliff back to the sea. Campfire ashes circle the base. Where pelicans preen and eagles train to feed is our born too early. My two became one. Female island gulls told me, sit in water, let life wash out and back. Cool stone slabs, your throne, we know. A sea burial, a hollow tree, limestone markers. That's a sea burial. And you can call Lake Michigan a sea. It's possible. It meets the definition in the dictionary. So I'm gonna read a poem called Because. And as we were driving here from Madison, we saw all these lovely black cows against the white snow. And I have an affinity for cows. And they were just lovely as we were driving. So this is called Because. Because the dew spools in the far corner of the pasture. A black and white Holstein dairy cow licks her newborn calf clean, her pink tongue unfolding. Emerald field grass stripes blink. The calf looks over the hill, past barbed wire fences, interstate traffic, rolling green hills and faded white farmhouses across the North Plains, towards the coral orb, the heat of the rising sun for the first time. Sobs wrench my body cavity for all in captivity. Tears flood my shirt. I pull over. Let me sit in sadness for a spell. I need to write this out. Died in her sleep. Her sister threw herself in front of a truck, leaves behind 3 daughters. Her father called her Negrita. The other 2 sisters were fair. The mother bathes her calf, mist rising. Love, a pink tongue in the morning, licks its forehead. Dew blinks grass. Fog lingers around their ankles. A vision called from the herd that crowds the hill. And that is because. And I'm going to read, I think, Soundscape. And this is a sound poem. So the instructions were go sit outside, listen to the sounds, and put them on the page. So this one is supposed to, I tell young people when I work in elementary or middle or high school to close their eyes. You can do it if you want. Soundscape. Plane engines whir, leaves clap, footsteps crush, red earth crunch, dry twigs laugh, tiny bird chirps, geckos scramble, water splashes, hand-carved rose, corn bathing grows, fan whirs behind, sidewalk voices float, disembodied hello lends near, bees buzz, cackle, wings hover, fly wings trickle, water soaks, red earth drinks, whippoorwill calls, motorcycles buzz, rider cries out, roadrunner scratches, tree leaf quakes, cool breeze blows, hair joins chorus, wind whistles ear, farmer kneels, knee hits ground, plants leap, crab apples drop, red earth received, ants march to feed. That's a fun poem for me. All right, I'm gonna switch to some newer stuff. And I wanna read the poem called Dispatches from Radar Hill. And the mayor asked me to read a poem when we got to 500,000 dead. And I did. And I used really long lines. In the Soundscape poem, they were really short lines, which goes for quick and light topics. But this is a serious subject. So for me, it requires long lines. And I will be very proud and say that it made everybody in the Common Council cry, which is what I wanted it to do. Dispatches from Radar Hill. For the bus driver on his shift who left and never came back. For the nurse who beat breast cancer but not COVID. For her colleagues who remember that every time a Billy Joel song came on, she'd pump her fist in the air and scream, Billy, with joy and pure fan fury. For the receptionist who carries on with the fist pumping and shouts in her name. For her coworker who told the story to us at her virtual funeral. For our elders in nursing homes who gave and gave to their friends and family, their community, buying all the Girl Scout cookies on the block, saving money for their grandkids' birthdays, who will miss their own. For the teachers who taught until they could not, for their students who struggled to learn with them online. For the parents who remain after so hard without your best friend, ally, accomplice there with you by your side, an island snoring each night. For those who lost their best friend and never got to say goodbye, or goodbye was a 2x4-inch screen, this the last time you saw them alive. For the widows who take poetry workshops 3 days after their love dies. For those who remain, carry their name, the people who remember their words, wit, wisdom, how they were scratch cooks, made chicken curry and rice, fry bread and pinto beans, sweet potato pie, each cobbler, took turns driving the kids to practice, stomp puddles in rain. Remember, remember, light a candle, say a prayer, a blessing, some funny thing they said when alive, when you laughed so hard you cried, but you didn't. That was a road trip, a family vacation when the back seat smelled less than fresh after a drive through the desert without air conditioning. These are the days of our lives, and to those who loved and lost, this poem is for you, for me. Let us mourn all those we loved who no longer breathe the spring air or get to see their first robin this season. The world is a lovely place when you care and harbor a secret love in your heart for all things full of color, sound, and feathers, soft sheets, chocolate ice cream, puppy breath, baby chuckles, your face in the morning in the mirror smiling back, so alive. That's Dispatches from Radar Hill. It's a nice long one. Okay, I'm down to how much time? I'm at 40. I'm gonna read one last poem and then we'll do a Q&A. So as a poet, you write and write, and sometimes you have an audience and sometimes you don't, and sometimes you get published, but rejection is like part of being a poet and a writer, lots and lots of rejection. But when you get the yes and you end up on poem a day after trying, it's a huge feeling. So this is an early memory. My dad and mom and my sister, we lived in Iowa City in family student housing. And I started as an activist at the age of 4 during the lettuce boycott. And this is a memory of me and my sister picketing outside a grocery store in the discount lot. Outside the grocery store, laden with the sweat of tan field workers, we stand, little girls in winter coats. Our hands hold signs, leaflets, our dark long hair, waist length, one straight, one curly. We say to the people who walk up to the glass door, don't buy the lettuce here. They aren't good to their workers. I don't recall anyone said anything back or who stood with us. I remember my sister next to me, us in our Sunday velvet vest, she, beret and red plaid jacket, me, white rabbit skin muff. Little brown girls with picket signs, rosy cheeks, big black eyes, legions of ghosts above, behind. Angels wing over us, and feathers, and sister feathers beat in the invisible breeze each time someone enters or exits the building with a bag full of groceries, oranges and eggs, celery and grapes. And that concludes the poetry reading. Thank you. I'm really, really happy you're here. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I want to express my support for Galena to bring me here. And thank you so much, Larissa, and to all the people that helped get me here. Yeah. Place, yes, place is very much part of my work, in addition to many things. I grew up by cornfields. We swam in cornfields. We play in the cornfields. I know in Iowa they should be like knee-high by July. You know, that was the thing that I grew up with. But to me, it was always there. I really appreciate the beauty of the natural world, and I'm very connected to, you know, the earth where I'm at. But when we lived in Seattle, it was the mountains and the trees, and in Madison, it's the land, and it's the rivers, and it's the lake, and in Milwaukee, it was Lake Michigan and the woods, and so I've always gone to nature and it's part of my work. It's always weaved in my work. I like image-based narratives. Yeah, my early work and this work is very different, but the themes have always been the same. Yeah, my concerns have always been the same. It's just how I approach the page and how I shape the poem on the page. Yeah, but I'm very into my editing. Like the way I write is to do first thought, best thought, and I just pour it out, which I've always done automatic writing, and then I go back and I harvest those free writes and make them into poems. If you want to purchase a book, I have some here, but also you can go online to Finishing Line Press. You can go to Barnes and Noble, you can go to Amazon, or you can even go to Target and buy them like online. So my book is widely available. My People Redux and from Finishing Line Press, and In Light Always Light as well. I'm also a small press, Art Night Books, and I have a couple of older books available. But thank you, Larissa. Yes, if you want to support poetry, if you want to take a look at the words on the page and see how I spend so much attention to the white space and the periods and how I use em dashes, they are available. Should I close with a poem? Sure. Okay, I'm going to close with a poem, unless there's any other questions. No, I'm not going to freestyle it. I work too hard on my lines to freestyle it. But I'm going to close with a poem that I like to do when I go to out in the public. So this poem, I heard the sound first, and I'm going to clap it for you. I heard the sound, and then I wrote the poem, and it's called What in That? What woman picked the corn, split the husk, and molded the seed that fed the people and opened the world? What being climbed down the tree, made the savannah a refuge? Who caught the strike that lit the bush, that started the spark that became the flame, that lit the hearth and traveled village to village, hollowed horn of smoldering smoke that started the fire, that cooked the kill, that fed the self that grows so big? What worker birthed the child, cut the cord, swaddled it, and kept on going down her row? What mother walked thousands of miles with two hands held in those smaller than her own? What father carried his child over mountaintops, swam through rivers, crossed deserts and lakes with one arm? What prisoner pierced the lock, walked out into the sunshine? What grandparent let her daughter sleep while the child rose, bathed its skin in rosewater and lavender, sang songs of ones and twos until it cooed back ohs and ahs blowing bubbles? What woman picked the corn, split the husk, and spilled the seed that fed the people and opened our world? Thank you. That's What in That, to be in a new collection. That's about.